Imagine that 30 years have passed since the world was destroyed by nuclear war. Solar eclipses have started to occur more frequently. Droughts are happening everywhere, cities are collapsing or falling apart, and the surviving humans can only look at each other with suspicion. But now, a man who cannot see walks through the war-torn wasteland, carrying a book believed to be able to bring hope back to humanity. His name is Eli. And this is the story of Eli's journey, told through a film titled The Book of Eli. So without further ado, let's get into the story and enjoy watching. "30 years after the nuclear war, the world lies in ruins. The world has turned barren, painted in shades of brown and gray. Corpses rot, buildings collapse, and dust fills the air. A raggedly dressed man named Eli walks alone through the ruins. In silence, Eli hunts a wildcat for food. This world is brutal. There is no electricity, no food, and water is extremely scarce. Even every step is fraught with danger, but Eli keeps moving westward, always to the west. At night, Eli begins to rest. In the silence, he eats his prey. But what's unique is that Eli always reads a book and listens to music through his worn-out AirPods. In fact, it could be said that Eli is a religious man. The next day, Eli continues his journey. He has been walking for decades to reach the western area because he believes there is a decent life there. But now, he falls victim to the tricks of bandits who are about to rob him. Eli actually doesn't want any violence, but since that's their line of work, Eli can't just stand by. Eli is truly very fast and strong, but in reality, he avoids killing like that. However, once again, because the world has turned mad and lost all morals and even mercy, Eli now witnesses a group of bandits ambushing and raping a woman. He chooses not to get involved, not because he doesn't care, but because he knows this world has lost its sanity. Without fear or fatigue, Eli always walks all day without resting. Until finally, Eli arrives at a small town that still has signs of life. A city ruled by a man named Carnegie. Carnegie is a ruthless leader who is searching for a legendary book. A book that is said to grant him the power to control human life, the Bible. Eli doesn't talk much. He just wants to refill his water, charge his AirPods, and continue his journey. But because this city is filled with bandits, even Eli, who is alone, starts getting provoked by trivial things. For example, Eli is challenged to a fight just for shooing away a cat. But these thugs have no idea who Eli really is.
That was my cat.
In the resistance Eli puts up, nearly half of Carnegie's soldiers are taken down. Realizing Eli's abilities, Carnegie intends to invite him to work together to build a city. However, Eli refuses. He even keeps saying that he wants to go to the west. Carnegie keeps trying to persuade him. Eventually, Eli is given one night to think it over, in hopes of convincing him to agree. That night, while resting, Eli is approached by someone as he reads a book. Cunningly, Carnegie orders his stepdaughter, Solare, to seduce Eli. But Eli refuses. He is not an ordinary man. He prays before eating, which makes Solara curious. Even though Solara is tasked with entertaining Eli, he truly is a man of faith. He doesn't even want Solara to touch him. Until one day Solara realizes that Eli is reading a book. Solara gradually starts to think that Eli is not an ordinary man. She even tells her mother about the prayers Eli taught her the night before. She even speaks up about it. She says she once saw Eli reading a book shaped like a cross. Carnegie, who had been searching for that book for years, immediately went after Eli, who had already left the city. Eli's journey westward made Carnegie even more eager to find out what book Eli was reading. He even deployed his entire army to go after Eli. Eli completely refused. Something strange happened, as none of the shots fired by Carnegie's troops managed to hit Eli at all. It was as if Eli was being protected by something. Eli even fought back against them, causing Carnegie himself to be injured by his own actions. With a stride that no one could follow, Eli began to walk with confidence. People could only watch him without stopping him. However, along the way, Solara quietly followed him, wanting to escape the cruel city life. Actually, Eli refused to take her along. But Solara made an offer. She was willing to reveal Carnick's secret water source, so Eli agreed. When they arrived after collecting the water, Eli ended up breaking his own promise. He then locked Solara inside, assuming that the roads were not safe for her. After his defeat, Carnick, who was being treated, became even more emotional. He was very determined to get the book that Eli had. He ordered all his men to chase Eli to the west, and they set off. Eli was, of course, aware of this. He could even sense that Carnick was pursuing him. Meanwhile, Solara, who had now been left behind, began to encounter bandits who wanted to rape her, but what happened was completely unexpected. A flying arrow struck, missing her but killing 2 lecherous men thanks to Eli's impressive actions. Because of that significant and impactful incident, Eli, after much contemplation and a period of adjustment, began to fully and wholeheartedly accept Solara as an integral and essential part of his ongoing and evolving journey. Not long after that incident, Carnick and the others arrived at the place where Eli had been, and they began to devise a strategy to continue the search the next day. That night, Eli and Solara decided to spend the night in an abandoned chimney. There, Solara, growing more curious about the book, asked Eli to read it to her. There, Solara was impressed by the contents of the book, which greatly soothed her soul. Then, Eli also shared that the book was meant to be destroyed after the Great War that had occurred. This is the only book of life left in the world. He explained how he found the book, but what was certain was that he felt the book had chosen him. Even throughout his journey, Eli was always protected. That is why Eli remained steadfast for 30 years as he walked westward because of his faith. The next day, Eli, who had sharp hearing, began to sense that Carnick was getting close, so they hurriedly left. And sure enough, Carnick had found their location. Elsewhere, Eli and Solara discovered a house in the middle of the desert. Although they were suspicious of the house, they eventually went there, hoping to find a water source. However, as they were about to enter, a trap was suddenly triggered because the house was inhabited by an elderly couple. But seeing that Eli and Solara were not a threat, the couple invited them in. There, the hands of the elderly couple were trembling. Eli and Solara, who were already suspicious, discovered that the couple had killed many people. Naturally, Eli, not wanting to take any risks, hurried to leave. But just as they were about to go out, Carnick happened to pass by that road. So Eli and Solara decided to go back inside, as it was no longer possible for them to escape. But now, Carnick didn't just have 2 enemies but 4, because the elderly couple agreed to help them. Carnick demanded that they hand over the book along with Solara. Until one day, everything began. When Eli threw a box shaped like a book which turned out to be a bomb, a fierce battle broke out. Gunfire erupted continuously, shot after shot without end. The couple even lost their lives in this war, and now Eli and Solara were cornered, unable to do anything. Carnick truly had the upper hand. He laughed cruelly as he saw the look of pity on Eli's face. He then immediately started shooting relentlessly at Eli while aggressively demanding the sacred book from him. But after finally getting precisely what he desperately wanted, he cruelly left Eli severely wounded and even forcibly took Solara to hand her over to his waiting men, ensuring she would not escape. On the way, Solara didn't run out of ideas. She strangled Carnick's henchmen, causing the car to overturn. The situation turned chaotic, and even the bomb Solara brought was able to destroy Carnick's men's car. A brief but precise journey gave Solara the upper hand, and even Carnick began to shed tears because he had lost all his best men just for this book. Solara finally arrived at the spot where Eli had been lying earlier, but she was shocked to find that Eli was no longer there, even though he had been shot and was seriously wounded. But as Solara walked along the road, she found Eli forcing himself to walk. Realizing this, Solara then began to take Eli to the place she believed to be his final destination, which was the western area. Solara asked what made Eli give up the book even though it was so important to him. Eli replied that he had carried it for years and that meant he had memorized it by heart. Elsewhere, Carnick apparently did not realize that the book was locked and he couldn't open it. Eventually, Eli and Solara reached their destination, arriving at a broken bridge, but their goal was to get to the island across from it. Switching back to Carnick, he arrived in the city. He tried to open the book while calling for a locksmith. Sometime later, Eli and Solara are now heading toward the island they were aiming for. But it turns out there are people guarding the place and it's inhabited by a group of people. That place is the perfect spot to write down everything on his mind because it's a library that holds copies of books that survived the Great War that ravaged the world. There, Eli meets with the head of the library to write down the entire contents of the book, which is extremely important for humanity. Meanwhile, Carnegie, who managed to open the book, is shocked to discover that the book is written in Braille, a script commonly used by people who are visually impaired. Due to a very reckless plan, Carnegie, who has already lost many of his men, must face a harsh reality as he is now left defenseless and can only sit in despair as his throne begins to be overthrown. And it turns out that all this time, Eli has actually been blind. He has been walking westward for years, relying solely on his faith. And it was at that moment that Eli asked the head librarian to provide a large amount of paper, where he then began to recite the word of God that he had memorized over the years. Then, after years of recalling and reciting to the head librarian, every chapter of the book was finally completed, accompanied by Eli's passing in a place of great peace. The book containing Eli's memorized words, which was the King James Version, was finally kept there on Alcatraz Island, which is famous for being the world's most secure prison. Solara was deeply saddened, but her journey with Eli had taught her many valuable lessons. So even though she was invited to stay there, Solara, now more skilled, chose to continue her adventure rather than settle down. The Book of Eli is not just a film about a journey through a ruined world. It is a story about unwavering faith even when the world around you has lost everything. Eli is a symbol that hope does not have to come from strength but from conviction within the heart. Even though he is blind, he sees much more clearly than others. Even though the world is dark, he brings light. The main message of this film is simple yet powerful. Sometimes the most valuable things in life cannot be seen but can only be believed in. If you enjoy discussions like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and see you in the next video.